Hi, I'm Ali Mirza of Rose Garden Consulting, and I just exposed my business on BizLinks TV network. Learn how you can improve your sales, develop a targeted sales program, and train your sales team coming up on my episode of That's My Biz on bizlinks.tv.
That's My Biz is sponsored by Visita Live Site and Constant Contact.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of That's My Biz. I'm Pamela Alexander, your host, and as always, you know we love bringing you the wonderful businesses, nonprofits, and associations that we meet when we're out there networking. We want you to know all about them. We want you to do business with them, and we want you to grow your business because you're connecting to them. I want to remind you that you can watch this episode again at www.bizlinks.tv. You can also check us out on all our social media properties. You know where to find us. It's BizLinks TV. Make sure you like us, make sure you subscribe, give us some thumbs up while you're out there as well. We have a fantastic guest with us today, and I know you all are going to be excited to learn all that he has to share, Mr. Ali Mirza with Rose Garden Consulting.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. We're so glad to have you today because he talks about a topic that many of you all really don't want to talk about, but you need it in your business, is sales. He is a master sales master, and he's a trainer as well. So that's why you need to go ahead and break out your pen, break out your paper, take some good notes because there's some wealth of information today. Make sure that you get his contact information as well so you can follow up with him after this conversation today. So now, Ali, please tell us, how did you get started in sales?
It's a while back now, but I would love to say that I had one of those startings in sales that everyone else said, that they went door to door selling pencils in their little red wagon. But
Right.
I think most people have come to find out that usually is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
I actually fell backwards into sales, as most people usually do. When I was going to school, when I was in university, I sold cars for about 3 weeks. Absolutely hated it. I think I may have sold 1 or 2 cars. It was one of those mutual partings where I didn't want to stay, they didn't want me to stay.
Right,
So,
okay.
But the following summer, when I was actually 19 years old, again, still in university, my friend actually approached me, and he was selling insurance.
Okay.
And so I said, okay, well, we were high school friends, why not? A chance for us to hang out and spend some time together. And that's really how I got my start in sales, and I'll tell anybody, I was not good.
Okay.
It was a tough beginning, but I stuck with it, and that's where I truly learned. There's no such thing as a born salesperson.
Okay.
Salespeople are trained.
Okay, so there you go. You're not born. So for those of you out there that just go, I can't sell, it's who they are. They're experts at it. He's here to tell you that you can learn how to do sales as well, how to be a great salesperson. So with that, so now you're with your business, Rose Garden Consulting. So what all do you all provide? What types of service do you all provide?
Well, really what we look to do is we want to come into your business and move the needle forward. So at the end of the day, whatever your revenue is right now, we want to increase it. Now, if you have a sales team, we'll come in there and either train them or really develop a process that will foster an environment for success and really put in the steps that will allow them to succeed. And it could just be little techniques and little tactics, but a lot of times it's a lot of cultural stuff and a lot of things that are habitual. On the flip side, we all know consultants. Everyone says to a consultant, if you're so good at it, why don't you do it for yourself?
Right.
So the thing that we always, we put our money where our mouth is. So if you don't have a sales team, we will actually come in and sell for you.
Well, and I know a lot of businesses out there are probably ready to jump on that part of it because they really, really don't want to do it. But now tell me, is it really as scary as a lot of people make it out to be?
No, it really isn't. I mean, I think that the biggest, the thing that I always try and let everyone take away from when we have a conversation is when you think that you're selling something or when you get into that sales mentality, you almost become robotic and you stop having a conversation.
Okay.
You stop and you're trying to, you have motives and you try and meet that end goal.
Okay.
But you're no longer letting the conversation go naturally. And that's why it feels awkward. That's why it's uncomfortable for a lot of people. So the simplest way I can explain it is this. Everyone's got that uncle, right? Everyone's got that one uncle that at the backyard cookout, he'll tell you something foolish and say, something to the effect of, Oscar Robertson's better than Steph Curry or something ridiculous like that. And when you start to engage with your uncle and say, oh no, so-and-so is a better basketball player than someone else, or someone is, technically what you're doing is you're selling them your idea.
Right.
You are not that's all you're doing. You're selling your idea. And if you can get into that mentality when you're sitting next to either a client or a prospect and trying to have that sort of a conversation and you're in that mindset, you are going to close a lot more deals.
Wow. So the first thing we heard, write it down, is to just make sure that you know what it is, be passionate about it, because I'm hearing be passionate there as well, but not be afraid to have that conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, if it really boils down to having a conversation, just being in your natural tone, and really listening to what the other person is saying. If you're not listening to it and you've got a one-track mind and already know what you're going to say, that person may tell you something that you can then piggyback off of and close that deal like that. But I mean, if you're sitting there trying to follow your script or follow a process that makes no sense, you're probably not doing yourself any justice. Nor are you doing any justice to your client either.
Fantastic. So now you mentioned people listening or not listening. It's more like it. I know a lot of times I'm at networking events and I'm meeting someone, and I mean, they just talk. And I realized they walked away. I didn't even tell them who I was. You know, I just heard all about them. So talk about just how important it is for someone that's selling, because I wanted to say a salesperson, but so for someone that's really selling, to listen and find out what the person needs.
Well, it all goes back to the old saying, we were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We're supposed to speak, or we're supposed to listen twice as much as we speak. If you were doing all the talking in a sales process, your client is hopefully listening. More often than not, they're not. More often than not, they are not listening to you. They're probably thinking something to the effect of, when is this person going to shut up? When is this person going to move on? And they're not engaged. In order to truly engage someone, you need to ask them questions, and then you know they're engaged, you know they're answering, and really what you're doing is you're getting them to resonate inside of themselves the need for your product, your service, your solution, and then they will have an attachment to it. So when you do go in there to actually go in for the close, so to speak, they've already closed themselves. And at the end of the day, really what you're doing is you're providing them and aligning them with the solution that is appropriate for them. Because as you asked all the questions, you've listened to them, you know what the right solution is. You're no longer trying to shove a square peg into a round hole. And that's the biggest mistake a lot of salespeople make, is they're so focused on selling, pitching, presenting their idea, they don't know whether the client needs it or not. Right,
exactly. So in talking about that, talk a little bit about knowing who your target audience is, because sometimes you're not talking. I know a lot of times people talk to me and I'm already beginning, I'm like, I'm not their target audience. You know, I know people that are, so if they would stop trying to sell me, I can probably, think of some people I can refer them to.
Well, and that really comes down to knowing what it is that you're selling and what it is that what you're pitching. Anytime I sit down with any my clients, the first thing I always ask them is, let's create a user profile of who your perfect client would be. Let's figure out who these people are and how do we need to speak to them. Because this has absolutely nothing to do with being phony or fake. You're going to speak to your mother one way and you're going to speak to your friends a different way. But when you try and speak, flip that, it doesn't make any sense, right? So, but it has nothing to do with being phony or fake. It just has to do with addressing people appropriately. So when you have a full understanding of who all your clients are or who all your prospective clients are, you're going to address them in an appropriate manner. You're going to tailor the message to them. But really, rather than what your message is, it's going to be the questioning. It's what sort of questions are you asking them, and in order to really engage them and pull them into the conversation, and then you know what, you probably won't have to really sell them. That's where the sale is. So you won't have to do what the traditional sales would be, and they're probably going to tell you, in a perfect world, where do I sign up? Who do I write the check to? I mean, that rarely happens, but it's a lot easier than to have to try and squeeze a check out of them at that point.
Okay, that's great. So now tell me how you kind of honed your skills.
Practice. Practice. I mean, so going back to the top of the show, I mean, when I mentioned that I was not a good salesperson, I had a sales trainer one time tell me the only thing that are born are baby boys and baby girls. Salespeople are trained. And that really stuck with me because I was knocking on doors. I was cold calling, so I was knocking on doors and on farmers' doors, trying to sell them some insurance. Whether they wanted it or not, I was trying to get in there, and I was not having any success until I heard that line, and then I really started trying to understand what that meant. What it really boils down to is, if you're asking the right question, you're engaged in the right activities, the results will follow. So it really boiled down to a lot of practice, sitting back and not practice in front of a client, that's too late.
Okay.
You need to, when you're about to approach a client, when you're thinking about approaching the client, when you're just sitting at home, lying in bed, trying to fall asleep, you know, try to understand why you would buy your solution or your product, and then try and tailor that message in that manner. And once you can understand that, believe me, it's not about selling. It really is about communicating.
Okay. So now with that, then do you suggest that people kind of stick to the sales part of it when they have a scheduled meeting, or what about kind of the off the cuff when you run into someone that you think might be a target client?
I mean both. I mean, you really can't control it. I mean, so if you have a scheduled meeting, I mean, of course you should go in there prepared. But right, if you run into somebody, I mean, you know, that could be an opportunity to make. You don't know whether, I don't know what you sell, but maybe it's $1 or $5 or $1 million, but you don't know what that opportunity is and when it'll present itself again. So always being prepared is very good. But again, if you're engaged in the right activity, so when you're falling asleep and you're running through different scenarios in your head, you know, chances are if you run into that person on the street, hopefully you're prepared for it. Again, because we've already gone through who the right people are for your product or for your service. And at that point, it's just simply lining it up, going back into your memory bank and saying, oh, okay, this person, I should address them this way. These are the questions I need to ask.
Okay. So now tell me, what are your thoughts on the infamous elevator pitch?
Well, I mean, so again, that goes back into being very regimented into a sales pitch. That being said, I think that the principle that people need to extract from that is being able to distill into a 30-second snapshot of what it is that your message is. If you can take that away and from what the elevator pitch really is, rather than a series of words that you're memorizing. Again, because if our elevator pitch is tailored for somebody that's a particular type of client that falls under classification A or user A, but we've run into user C in our elevator. Well, again, you need to align the needs. So understanding what your messaging is, understanding what it is that you need to say, and then really at that point, if you can shoot it off the cuff, it's a lot better, because then it's a lot more natural, it's a lot more conversational.
I like that. I can always tell when someone's kind of giving me that memorized elevator pitch.
It's not good.
Right, exactly.
Don't come on. No one's ever said, oh wow, that was very robotic. Here's a check.
Love it. So now we're going to take a break for our sponsors, but when we come back, I want to talk more about Rose Garden Consulting and the specific services and how you can help and how you are helping the businesses that are out there. But before that, tell everyone how they can get in touch with you.
You can go to our websites, rosegardenconsulting.com. Twitter handle is @RGC Facebook is Rose Garden Consulting.
There you go. So we're going to be right back.
See that woman? She's not just someone who can make a Cancun vacation tax deductible. She's a marketer. Sharon uses constant contact email to maintain and build relationships. She sends her clients professional newsletters. And she can see who opens and clicks on them, so she knows what's working. It's not just those fast fingers that keep Sharon's clients flocking back. Sharon's a marketer, and all it took was constant contact. Try it free.
Visita makes it easier for your business to get paid online. With Visita Live Site, your clients can pay for any service, invoice, or scheduled appointment right from your website, social network profile, or email. You can accept any credit card or PayPal, and funds will be deposited directly to your bank account or PayPal account at no extra charge. Easily add payment options to your site that fit your brand and website design and are fully supported on mobile devices. No technical skills are required.
Welcome back, everyone. As always, we want to thank our sponsors. We know without you, it would not be possible. Also, you, our viewers, we know without you, it wouldn't be possible. So please continue to watch. Please continue to give us your feedback. We're so excited about the activity that's going on out there and the engagement with each and every episode. Continue to do that. And please let us know your thoughts of the guests that you'd like to have on. But make sure you reach out to our individual guests as they come as well. We want to get back into our conversation because we are talking with Rose Garden Consulting, and he's already shared a wealth of information for those of you all out there that feel a little scared of sales, but also there's some folks out there that, talk about they're in sales and marketing. So
yes,
tell me what you think about that.
All right, so I guess you knew that was a pet peeve of mine. So Sales. Okay, so the simplest way I can put sales and marketing is, so when someone tells me they're in sales and marketing, or they have a sales and marketing division or something, what that it's no different than if someone was to say I'm a doctor and a lawyer.
Okay.
You could be both, but you're probably not.
Okay.
So sales and marketing are two completely separate and different things, and that's where a lot of people suffer in sales, is because they engage in sales and marketing, which really makes no sense. Marketing, and I'm not trying to take away from what marketing is, it's a very difficult task, and you need to be very good at it, and there's a lot of people that are good at it. And it takes a lot of experience and work. But from my understanding of what marketing is it's getting brand recognition, information out there, getting awareness, and a whole host of other things. Sales is picking up a check. So I mean, when you're trying to say that I do all of that, or that full cycle of it, I mean, you're not doing it, or if you are doing it, you're not utilizing your time properly, because it takes so long to take that person through that sales cycle, that your client through that sales cycle, that if you're also trying to spend your time, or have your sales agents also engage in marketing as well, you're spreading them too thin, and really what you end up doing is you get no results out of it.
Okay, and that makes so much sense, because just the skill set that it takes to sell, or the skill set that it takes to market, and to know all of the different avenues and what works, what doesn't work, all those different things. So that makes complete sense. But I love the statement that you made. You said sales is about picking up a check. So you all keep that in mind, because the marketing, that's not what it is. It's the awareness.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, if you have an expert closer, and you have them doing all the pre-engagement stuff, and you have them doing a lot of stuff that's raising traction, creating awareness, then you take that group of people and then figure out who your actual prospects are. You take them from suspects to prospects to lead, or you take them from suspects to leads to prospects, and once you get them in the prospect, that's when they enter into the sales cycle. You take them from, and you take them all the way until you actually take the money from them, and now you're going to try and get them to do some sort of onboarding or fulfillment. Why? Why would you ever do that? So I mean, that's why when you've got the medical field, right? I mean, you've got people that are admins, and you got that whole thing broken out, because you've got your delicate geniuses doing their particular tasks, and that's just what makes sense. So if you have someone that's doing a whole host of things, and their skill set is in closing, you're not utilizing that person to the best of their ability.
Okay. So how important is it then for, especially small, medium-sized businesses, to have someone that's dedicated to sales? Because I know those are probably the businesses where it might be the most challenged to have someone dedicated.
Right, and that's what I face on a day-to-day basis, is when I sit down with entrepreneurs or just business owners, is sometimes they cannot devote a salary or a budget to sales staff, and that's where it gets a little bit finicky. But the first thing that I always tell people is, if you want to go into business for yourself, and you want to be an entrepreneur, and you are either not willing to or not able to sell your own product, there's more than likely it's not going to happen just because you hired somebody else. Salespeople are notorious for wasting time and giving you a whole host of excuses. So if you yourself don't understand that sales cycle, and don't understand that sales process, and what it takes to actually close the deal, you know what, at the end of the day, you don't expect that someone's just going to kind of come in magically and then do it for you. So that's why I always tell people, you know what, hone your skills first, sharpen them, understand how to sell, and only then can you transfer that understanding to somebody that you're going to bring on board. So to answer your question in short, the owner's got to be the first one up there. You lead from the front, start selling, learn how to sell, and then from there, then you only then can you multiply yourself through others.
Well, I like that, because you said earlier that it goes back to knowing your product, knowing your service and what it is, and just bringing someone in, you've got to be able to explain that to them, and they've got to kind of get ingrained with it in order to be able to sell it well.
Right, and I mean, just the other day, I was actually speaking to somebody out in California, a client of mine, and one of the things that he mentioned was, you know, when he comes in, he's as the owner of the business, it's very easy for him to sell, but he doesn't understand what he's doing. It's that whole, you know, he's not aware of his own competence. It's unconscious competence.
Right.
So he's good at selling and he's good at closing deals, but he doesn't understand how. And so when we really dug down into it, what it really boiled down to is his passion. So he's a creative, and it's his passion that really sells his clients. But he's hiring salespeople to come in there and just push product and move product, and it's not working. So you know what we said is what we basically ended up on is, you know, have someone come on board that just shadows you for 6 months and understands, and then because passion's infectious. Once this individual, your new salesperson, sees the passion you have, it'll slowly start to wear off on them until they're infected, and then that's how you're going to multiply yourself through others.
Well, I love this because this is such confirmation. We're big fans of Shark Tank Beyond the Tank, and that's one of the underlying things that we hear all the time. The person, they get bought into it because of their passion, but then they stop and brought a salesperson in, and first thing they always tell them is, no, you are the one that's selling. You got to get out there and do it. So I love that. So share with us one of your success stories of one of your clients.
Okay. A client I had a few years back, I was engaged with them for about 3 years, which is not a typical situation, but this was an atypical situation. But so I was engaged with them for 3 years, and when I first started out with them, and why they brought me in is because they had their sales had flatlined.
Okay.
They were in business for 25 years, and they were stuck at about 4.3 million, something like that, in annual sales year over year for about, I think, 3 or 4 years. And the problem is that they were at the height of the market, and the industry that they were in was experiencing all sorts of boom, and everyone was making record-breaking numbers, and yet they had plateaued.
Okay.
So when I came in, that was actually the first year that the industry actually took a little bit of a step back and slowly started to regress. But all I did was make a few changes and worked with them, and they went from 4.3 million in 2011 to I think it was 11.7 million in 2012. And then 13 million, 12.9, and then 14.9. I think it was respectively in 14 and 15. So, or 13 and 14. So, really, it's what people don't understand. A lot of times, it's small changes if you make, and a lot of it has to do with company culture. It has to do with what you're expecting out of yourself, and then just small processes. Make your product, make your solution simple and easy to buy for your own clients.
Okay. Wow. So I know you all are out there looking for those types of results. So now, what types of companies do you partner with this?
I would have to. Okay, so I'll work in any industry. I mean, once you've been in sales long enough, you understand that a sale is a sale.
Okay.
People try to make it very difficult and very complicated and try and say that it's rocket surgery, but it really isn't. I'm not going to work in retail, as I just can't do anything for them. But really, if you were to identify a perfect client for me, it would be someone who is just looking to grow their sales and really is growth oriented. Because I have come across people that say, okay, well, I'm very limited in my growth and I only want to grow so large. So really anyone who wants to grow their business and really want to create some sort of an empire and really want to create a process behind it are perfect partners for me.
Okay. Good. So now you talked about the sales cycle. Kind of what exactly is, and I know you talked earlier because you mentioned the lead and the prospect, the suspect and the prospect. Then what's the cycle? Is it one kind of basic cycle, or does it vary by industry or business?
I mean, to a certain degree, it will vary, of course. But if you really just break it down to its general core, I mean, you've got your prospecting phase where you're looking for your prospects, and then once you've identified someone who is a viable candidate for your solution, then from there you go into assessing their needs. That's always the first and most important thing is okay, yes, this person, it fits the mold, but do they actually need it, or do they have something that's working just fine or even better, or something that I can provide in their particular situation? So you assess their needs, and that really should take up the burden of the sales process. Once, and again, if you're doing it right, that will take up the because that's the question, that's the engagement, right? And then they're in that they're selling themselves as to why they need you, and what the real need is there. So you got the need, you do your needs analysis, your due diligence, and then from there, you just give them a short little pitch and say that, okay, based on X, Y, Z, all these factors, what that you outlined to me is what you need. Here's a 5, 10, 15-minute blurb about what it is that we can do for you, and then really pitch it with confidence, knowing full well that you can solve their concern or their issue, because you know it full well at this point. And then from there, I call them lay down Larrys, and someone just say, "Hey, here's a check." I mean, we'd all love to walk in there, but people are human, and they're going to have their natural questions, their knee-jerk reactions. So you're going to have to handle some sort of objections, and then you go back, and then you go in for your close, and it's not a close where you're twisting their arm. It's really about confidently asking for the sale. The way, and a lot of people say, "Well, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to do that," and the simplest way I can explain it is this. you've done your proper needs analysis, you don't have to be pushy.
Okay.
That being said, you still have to go in for your close confidently. The best example I can give is this. It's a real estate agent, figures out exactly what his clients need, husband and wife, and they go out and they go say, we want a 3,500 square foot house, 3-car garage, pool, X, Y, Z. The first house they go and see has every single thing, checks everything right down the box. Real estate agent comes outside and says, what do you think?
Right.
Doesn't close them, and they say, well, it's the first house we've seen. Yeah. So they go out and look at a bunch of different homes. That house sells. Then they go and look for 2, 3, 4, 5 more months, and they cannot find the perfect house.
Right.
Well, did that real estate agent really help them? Right? Because he himself was not confident enough to close them. And again, you're not closing them because you're twisting their arm into something that they don't want. But you're really preventing people from making a decision that's really going to hurt them.
Wow, that's interesting because I know so often in talking with businesses, we hear a lot of times it's just that they don't ask for the sale. They don't do the close itself.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard statistics anywhere between 50 to 80%. I mean, I don't know which ones are accurate, but 50 to 80% of all sales calls go without a close at the end. So, how many people do we? And be honest with yourselves. How many times do one of us get to at the end of a presentation and we kind of basically have our hands in our pockets and say, okay, and then the person, and then your prospect themselves are feeling awkward, so then they don't know what to say, so they're trying to break the awkwardness and say, well, let me think about it.
Right.
And you go home and you're like, yeah, I think I got it.
Right,
But, and then it just fizzles away from there. It's gone.
Well, so now with that, talk about the follow-up, like how long do you follow up? How long do you, because a lot of people always say until they tell me no. So how long do you kind of keep going after that one particular prospect?
So follow-up's very important. Follow-up is key. I think it's something to the effect of 80% of all sales are made anywhere between the 5th and 12th follow-up.
Wow.
So if you think that I've followed up with this person 3 times or 4 times and they haven't given me a commitment, I should leave them alone. Well, if again, that's the bulk of all sales are made after the 5th attempt. So this is the best way to follow up is basically call somebody, ask them or whatever your next steps are, and if they still haven't made their decision, simply reaffirm with them that, hey, I don't want to be a bother.
Right.
I just want to ensure that this is something that you're still considering.
Okay.
Is it all right with you if I call you back next week?
Okay.
Now that person is telling you, yeah, sure, go ahead, call me back next week.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, and I just use my own personal situation, if this is something that I want to go with, a lot of times I'll say that, okay, yeah, call me back, but this today's not the right day.
Right.
I've got, I got to go pick up my dog. My wife's,
Yeah.
there's a whole host of reasons as to why right now is not the best time to sign.
Right.
But now if this person never calls me back, in effect, that this is a reflection of that person. They told me they'd call me back, and now they're not. It sours my experience.
Yeah.
So when people call me back and they're respectful, again, that's the key: being respectful, setting up the next steps, asking for permission if it's all right to follow up, and they'll tell you yes or no.
Okay.
Go from
So
there.
you all follow up. They always tell you the fortunes in the follow up, and then make sure that you actually close. Make sure that you actually ask for that particular sale. Now, I want to ask you because sales methodology. What sales methodology do you subscribe to?
Either all of them or none of them.
Okay.
I mean, so again, it goes back to, anytime you fixate on a particular methodology, you're trying to be robotic and follow a series of steps. So I'm actually working with someone right now who asked me the same thing. Ali, what's your methodology? And I said, well, I don't know. I don't, it's conversational. We just have a conversation.
Okay.
So now he's calling it the conversation methodology. So
He just had to give it a title, right?
He just had to give it a title. So I mean, it's fine with me. I'm okay with calling it the
Right.
conversational methodology. And there really are no hard and fast steps. Really, I'd say the only rule that I'm really strict on is asking enough questions. If you can ask enough appropriate probing questions, you're following the conversation methodology.
Okay. Because what do you think about, I've been pitched many times on many different things, but the folks that, they kind of just slide the contract over to you and hand you the pen and, they just do all these different techniques that are taught on how to get someone to go ahead and move forward and commit.
I mean, so my theory on those is this. Yes, they work to a certain extent, but they only work if the person is at the point where they want to be pushed over or they're on that fence. If they're not on that fence and you haven't done all the right things to get them there, it's not going to work. That being said, if we can close the deal and have a healthy relationship without trying to do something sly like that, let's try that first.
Okay,
Is
okay.
the best way that so there's appropriate closes where we're helping the clients. They don't feel like they got hustled or they got
Okay.
closed, or nobody wants to be closed. People don't like.
Right.
Nobody wants to be sold to.
Right.
People like to buy.
Right.
So help them buy.
I like that.
And people like to buy off people
like
that they
that.
like. So if we can engage in a genuine conversation, and I tell you, hey, look, X, Y, Z is why you need to purchase this, or X, Y, Z is why I'm the right person for you, you're going to simply say, yeah, okay. And then you yourself will probably ask me for the next steps. I have clients all the time say, okay, what are the next steps? Now, it's up to me to now not say, well, whatever you want, you know what I mean? So at that point, they're looking for me as the authoritative figure to say, okay, I need you to sign this contract, I need you to do this, I need this sort of a deposit.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm being authoritative and I'm being confident in what it is that I'm presenting to them, they're not going to feel like they got hustled or they got sold, because everyone's got that big fear of a salesperson closing the deal and then going in the back room and saying, yeah, I got him.
Right,
you know?
right.
So we don't want to engage in those sort of techniques.
Exactly. So now I have a special question for you.
Shoot.
Who is the best salesperson of all time?
Me.
That-
No,
There
no
you go.
question. I tell salespeople this all the time. If you cannot confidently say that you are the best of all time, then you never will be. So
I
you know what,
love
whether it's
that.
true or not, that's the way you should be thinking.
That's right. I love that. I mean, if you don't take away anything, you need to take that away with you. Whether it's salesperson, whether it's whatever it is you do in your business, I mean, it's got to be you, because if you don't believe it.
If you're not the best at what you do, then you should go find what you are the best at what you do.
Right.
So.
I love that. That's perfect. I almost want to end on that, but I have to ask also about, because we know you're the best salesperson that you know. So Rose Garden Consulting. So now tell us, how do you work with businesses, and what sets you apart from other companies that might be somewhat similar?
So the big thing about us is we really truly want to help our clients. This is not just strictly about money, and that's where a lot of the message gets lost, is when you were nothing more than just a dollar figure to me. So we really want to help all of our clients, and so what makes us different is we are not simply there just to pretend like we're helping you. So we really sit down, dig deep into you, into what your company is, and then really figure out what the best approach is. Sometimes we are the best approach, and sometimes we are not, and we have no problem pointing you in the best direction. But we are really results-oriented, results-driven. It's not, and then ensuring that what we teach you is actionable. So we're not going to give you best practices. We're not going to fill you full of a bunch of energetic quotes and pet you down and tell you that you're the best when you're really not. We're going to actually help you, and that really is what makes us different, is because we don't just come in there and do seminars and fill everybody full of piss and vinegar and then let them go out there, and then 2 weeks later they're just doing what they were doing before. So really what makes us different at the end of the day is we will actually move that needle forward in your revenue, because we have no problem in actually getting sales. So because, like I said, we'll actually come in there and sell for you.
Okay, so you've got all the options that you need, and I know you mentioned the training that you do as well for companies. Now, do you do it for entrepreneurs and solopreneurs as well?
Right. So that's actually a new avenue of our businesses, because I've had a lot of people come to me, and they may be they're a one-man show, one-woman show, and so they'll come to me, and so I've been given a lot of tips and things like that, and so a few people have asked me to kind of formalize some sort of hours that they could purchase from me. So that's the one thing that we've been going into, is sitting down with people and doing one-on-one where it's not just a pitch assessment. It really is figuring out what your messaging is. It's not about a sales pitch. It's about messaging. How do you position yourself in front of your prospect where you are an authoritative figure and they want to buy from you? You don't need to really sell to them.
Yeah, and then we know that's what you all want. Many of our viewers out there, I told you this was going to be the topic for you. So a lot of it, and I hope, again, you took a lot of notes, because there's a lot of rich nuggets that I got out of it. So I hope that you did as well. We want to make sure, for those of you all that need that help, and even for those that necessarily don't think they do, you can always use a little extra help. So we want to make sure that you reach out to Ali. So Ali, please, one more time, tell them how they can get in touch with you.
Website is www.rosegardenconsulting.com. Facebook is Rose Garden Consulting. Twitter handle is at RGC Sales. Give me a call, 678-796-6124. I will be sure to pick up your call, or someone will pick it up.
Thanks so much. We appreciate you coming and joining us today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, everyone. We know we'll get him back again because we know there's so much more for you to learn. We want to remind you that you can watch this episode again at www.bizlinks.tv. You can also go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/BizLinksTV. And don't forget our YouTube channel, youtube.com, guess what, BizLinksTV. With that, make sure that you subscribe so that you stay up to date on episodes as they are released. Also, give us some thumbs up and give us some comment and feedback for our guests as well. And you know all the other social media properties, you know where to find us, BizLinks TV. I'm Pamela Alexander, exposing your business to the world.